So in this video, I'm going to sort of go through the story of Irregular magazine, how the magazine started and where we've got to today. It's just a quick sort of overview of how we came about, and I also delve into some of the looking at some web designs and in magazines in general. So let's crack on with the story. It basically all started around in 2009, around April-May time, and it came about initially from a conversation amongst friends at a local Games Workshop store. We were basically chatting about the state of gaming magazines at that time and how very little choice there was for science fiction and fantasy on the shelves. And amongst the group, there was a couple of us who were old codgers who remember gaming in a sort of 80s and 90s, and we remarked that back then there seemed to be a lot more choice in the magazines, and most of them covered a plethora of games and rule systems, whilst those that were currently on offer in 2009 were pretty much dedicated to a particular game and rule set. And if I remember rightly, back in 2009, if you were a historical gamer, there was much more choice on the shelves because you had the war game magazines, and then there were military modelling, painting magazines, and most of those techniques sort of cross over. So if you're a historical gamer, you were sort of better served by the publishing sort of magazine industry as such. As that conversation moved up to the pub, and quite a few beers were consumed, I rather drunkenly stated it would be that hard to create our own. Famous last words. So I was then basically bet that I couldn't do one, and then if I did, no one would download it. Well, I accepted that challenge, but how do you actually get started? I mean, launching an online magazine takes a lot of careful planning, hard work, and a lot of dedication to get the content. I mean, there were several necessary steps that we needed to take in order to create an online tabletop gaming magazine that hopefully someone would choose to actually download. Now, I was hoping to get someone to download. If I got 50, then I was doing all right as far as I was good. If I got something like 200, then I was like, well, yeah, that's quids, that's a good magazine. We've done the job. We got 200 downloads. I wasn't expecting anything more than that. So that's what I was aiming towards. Anything between 50 to 200 would be a success. The first step in creating an online magazine was to define our niche within the tabletop gaming space. Tabletop gaming is, as most people know, is a broad field encompassing a wide range of things from like Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, independent RPGs, collectible card games, and historical wargaming. Now, rather than trying to cover everything, we decided to focus on specific aspects of the hobby that we were kind of passionate about and had some knowledge in. So this allowed us to sort of narrow our focus down to wargaming, RPGs, and miniature and terrain painting tutorials. We also decided to try and stay away from some of the bigger names in the hobby, such as 40k and War Machine, because they were being covered a lot already, and we wanted to cover some of the games that don't get the amount of attention that the bigger names in the hobby already did. So we were aiming for niche sort of historical stuff, niche sci-fi fantasy, and painting tutorials that were geared towards mainly the sci-fi and fantasy sort of genres. And that was the aim. And then scattered amongst all that would be RPG articles, short stories, maybe interviews with artists and writers and stuff like that. That was what we had a plan for Irregular magazine. So we had our focus, we had our broad sort of content of the sorts of things we wanted to cover. So the next thing was to build a team. Now the next stage was to build a team of contributors. I mean, basically creating an online magazine is a team effort. Now, while I had the idea that I might start off writing some of the articles myself, it became beneficial and easier to bring in a good diverse group of contributors. So what I did was to reach out to some of the local writers, artists, and content creators within tabletop gaming community within locally near me, who shared a similar sort of passion. But we were very lucky to bring on board a local comic book artist by the name of Will Kirby, and he came on board and created the comic strip called Tuk Tuk for us. Most people within the gaming hobby will probably know Will's work from the recent war game Space Station Zero by Badger Games. He has this really cool, unique style that I really liked, and looking back, it was a bit of a coup that we were able to bring him on board onto the project. We then made the decision that on the format and frequency of the magazine, and we decided to go with a quarterly production. At the start of the project, we came up with the idea of themed issues, and this would continue for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, on that first issue, we weren't expecting to go beyond that one issue. It was basically a bet, and I didn't think I'd get anything more than maximum 200 downloads if I was lucky. So a lot of those decision makings around theme and around the quarterly publication, everything like that, sort of came afterwards. Now, one of the consistent elements of the magazine that's been a constant throughout the years has been putting a great piece of artwork on a cover. Over the years, we've been quite lucky with some of the artists that we've been able to use and have allowed us to use their artwork on the magazine. These have included artists such as Bryn Meffney, who created a great looking cover issue for issue 8 way back in 2011. We wanted to create a webzine style product because I was heavily influenced by the gaming zines that I read as a teenager in the 80s. The zines were often produced on a shoestring budget with typewriters, photocopiers and staples, and they were basically filled with fan-generated content such as new rules, adventures and monsters, artwork and commentary. They offered players an outlet to contribute to the hobby, exchange ideas and push the boundaries of what could be done with D&D. Producing a sign in the 80s was a labour of love. It required a significant amount of effort and time from its creators. Without the convenience of digital publishing or desktop computers, design editors generally back then used to have to use typewriters, cut and paste layouts and hand-drawn artwork. The finished pages were then photocopied or printed in small batches, often at a local copy shop or a home printer. Once they were copied, the zines were then stapled together, packaged and mailed to subscribers or sold at local gaming stores and conventions. The distribution of zines was basically grassroots at their production. The zines spread through word of mouth, small advertisements in the back of gaming magazines or at conventions. For us, the distribution method of getting the word out about the magazine would be through forums. We generally posted in the most popular tabletop gaming forums at the time, with the hope that someone would have download the finished item. We were, like I said, not expecting that many people to download. We were hoping that if we got 200, then the project was a big success. Now, looking back at that first issue, it was pretty ropey in regard to content and layout design. I was hoping that at best, like I said, we'd get more than 50 unique downloads. And if I got anywhere near 250, then that would be an absolute success. Now, what I wasn't expecting was the amount of people who actually did go on to download that first issue of the magazine. In the first week it went live, we basically uploaded it on the Friday, and by Sunday around 2,000 people had downloaded the magazine. It was insane, and proof there was an appetite for a webzine. So originally it was meant to be a one-off project with the expectation that no one would probably bother with it. Yeah, after that weekend we kind of realised that we had something, and we kind of had to continue and make another issue, because we wanted to make sure this wasn't just a fluke. So we created issue 2 mainly to see if we could replicate the success of the initial issue of the webzine. Well, this time even more people downloaded that issue, and it kind of just rolled on from there. The D&D designs in the 1980s captured a time where fans took the game into their own hands, creating content that reflected their unique visions for the worlds that they kind of wanted to play in. And this is kind of what we wanted for the project for Irregular magazine. It was designed to be a hobby project for the hobby community. And in more recent years, I decided to set up a YouTube channel as another outlet for producing hobby content. And the plan is to start producing video content that complements the content in a magazine. And we'll probably start kind of doing that next year. And the first year to 2 years has been learning how to sort of run a YouTube channel. And we're kind of sort of getting there now. But the whole project started, like I said, started off as a kind of a bit of a joke and a bet, and it sort of went haywire, and we went mental, and when we went sort of, it suddenly got out of hand, and it's suddenly become a project that's now been running since 2009, and there are, I don't know, about 40 plus issues now available online to download, and we've now got a YouTube channel to go alongside it as well, producing new content. And it's just one of those things that exploded far beyond the expectations, and it's been quite an interesting sort of journey with it. What started off as basically a bet, and it's led to some issues getting more than 10,000 unique downloads, a YouTube channel that's now starting to grow, making lots of friends and contacts within the hobby community and within the hobby industry. So yeah, it's been a pretty sort of unreal experience, to be honest. I didn't expect, when I first started that first issue, I didn't expect to be where it is now. I didn't expect it to go beyond one issue, to be perfectly fair. I didn't think anyone would download a homemade magazine, online magazine, and around that time we weren't the only ones that sprang up and created online magazines. Suddenly there was an explosion around that time of other people doing similar projects, and then since then there's been an explosion of YouTube content creators. I think from around 2009 to now, there's been a massive growth in content creation for the hobby, and it's been great. You've seen a lot of people now producing some really great YouTube content, and there's a lot of stuff being produced in the form of blogs and webzines and stuff like that. So yeah, so we kind of hit that point of when we started that we weren't the only ones looking at creating good content, and there were quite a plethora of people around that time starting up. I think when we started the magazine, I think one of the big content creators, Beasts of War, now on tabletop, I think they started around that similar sort of time. So there was just this kind of mass movement as well of other people, not just us, that were creating content online for the hobby, and now it's become huge. I mean, the amount of people producing content is immense, and it's been great for the hobby. I think there's more content being produced by actual hobbyists than there is by industry for consumption online. So I'm hoping to expand the YouTube channel over the next few years and continue with the magazine. It's been pretty sort of unreal from what was a drunken bet. Anyway, that's all for this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.